Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of Fire Force Season 2 on Toonami. And I thought this season was okay. Um, Normally it's... The positives I could have for this season are that the animation's great, you got good stuff going on with the characters, and the action sequences that we get. However, I believe that there was too much going on plot wise and not enough to really string together what was kind of going on. There's a lot of things that are just like kind of introduced and they're just kind of like what it's kind of rapid fire at like what's you're trying to kind of see and accomplish with this story, because the strength of it are the characters at this point, and that the plot is just kind of going all over the place with all these different kind of things. Granted, it could get better on as they try and like interweave everything going on, but you're just kind of like, what the fuck? So we start off and we see that like Company 8 is doing their usual stuff. They have to deal with this like infernal that's got like 5 cores or whatnot. So that was actually a pretty kind of cool thing to see, and they're trying to figure out what the White Clad, more their motivations and what their kind of next moves are, because they've got Sho, they've got Shinra. They're trying to figure out what's going on with these pillars and everything. It's like, okay, let's kind of get a little bit more of that. But we see that they're dealing with that, kind of had a nice action set piece, nice animation with that Infernal, and dealing with that like, holy shit. Well, they're pretty much trying to figure out what was going on with the Cataclysm and what's going on with the Adola Burst. We see that Shinra is introduced to the captain of the fourth, Hage, and how he's like, ooh, show me that world, show me that world. The whole Adola link kind of thing. It's like, okay. We don't really get delved into what is going on with the Adola links. We just see that they're like special, like people either have had some connection to Adola or like someone from Adola or whatnot. But that's about all we get from it. It's a through line throughout this series because Dr. Giovanni pops up and towards the tail end. Again, he's researching stuff like that and is trying to do that, and is freaked out that he had an Adola link with Shinra, and it's like, that's proof, and it's just like, okay. And we get some information on what Adola is. At first I was thinking it was more kind of like a different kind of dimension. Then we get towards the end that Dr. Giovanni thinks that they're outer space bugs, and that he's trying to turn himself into a bug to get to Adola and have a stronger link to it. And we're just like, alright, but what's the Evangelicals' goal? We don't really know. Just to pretty much create another cataclysm and some other kind of like sun or whatnot. Because one of the other pillars, like Hamea, is like, oh yeah, I see it. Oh, great sun. It's like, because that was the last stinger at the episode at the end of this season. It's just like, the fuck? It's a lot of, it's a problem that you see a lot of times of teasing a lot of things but never kind of stitching them together into an adequate plot, because you've got a lot of shit thrown in this season. It's like, what the fuck? Because we see that Shinra is trying to deal with this and trying to understand what's going on with him, because during like the Great Fire, Hage was able to see that dimension and of course wanted to go back towards it. Now granted, that's when we thought it was a dimension and not Dr. Giovanni bringing up this whole kind of like alien bug fucking thing, and that bugs were actually extraterrestrials that somehow like rode a comet and splashed into Earth. And that's an actual kind of theory about bugs and insects. I'm like, okay, that's an interesting kind of one. It makes me think of the ancient aliens kind of people, but granted, I'm always open to seeing other kind of things. It's just they don't really dive into that kind of explanation at all, mainly because it comes at the end of the season. It's like, alright. So he's talking to that dude, and then he gets an Adola link kind of thing, and one of the pillars is pretty much telling him to unleash all of his Adola power kind of stuff, and I'm like, what does that mean? It gets into the problem of essentially trying to tell you things or kind of jargony kind of shit without explaining to you what that means. Like, I could tell you, what what a profit and loss statement is and what it means and going into the nuts and bolts of what it is. But if I just be like talking about P's and L's and like AR and AP and how we're net 60 or net 30 or net 15 just out of nowhere and just said something about like a donuts baker's dozen was like popped out of some dude's asshole. If you don't have context for what jargon I'm using, I'm not going to understand what you're talking about. Granted, I added some weird shit at that end, but it's without the context, I don't. They're trying to juggle all these different kind of things and all these different kind of explanations. I was like, all right, do. So after they see that Shinra pretty much kind of gets possessed, kind of freaky, and Arthur kind of like horny bumps him to be like, stop being an asshole. He's like, all right, cool. Shinra's able to get snapped out of it, and they're like, all right, we need to learn more about the Great Cataclysm. How do we do that? All right, let's pretty much jack you up with some of these other kind of recruits and send you off to what pretty much remains of the Chinese mainland. And it's like, okay. And there's even like a space where like the land like came together even more, so it's like really kind of weird. Now, granted, I liked this idea of like, explore more, because the Tokyo Empire that we've got is an amalgamation of the people that survived the Great Cataclysm. So it's this giant kind of melting pot of other kind of cultures and everything, mixed, of course, together with Captain Shinmon of the 7th, who is more following the traditional kind of Japanese kind of cultural traditions that were before this Great Cataclysm. So you're like, okay, cool. Let's kind of see what goes on with that other one. We don't really get much of that at all, other than like Juggernaut, the character Juggernaut. He was a potato farmer that way, and we just see his potato farm, and then they're like riding through this one place is emitting this kind of gas that makes everybody go kind of fucking cuckoo like a doo doo, and they encounter talking animals. And they're explained by this because some lady in black that's kind of similar to the evangelist was able to give them the spark to understand speech and all that stuff. And we even see this kind of mold dude that's got a fucking tail-ass power. And I'm like, is nobody going to comment on the fact that this thing is kind of a pyrokinetic and now has sentience and is exercising free will? No. Anime, talking animal doesn't, just... Now, granted, I don't mind using certain kind of tropes and everything like that, but, like, do something with it. I ain't got no beef with that. Well, they keep going, and we find that there's this ancient, similar Amaterasu, similar to the one that's in the Tokyo Empire. And it's being guarded by this, like, freaky-ass infernal that has more sentience and intelligence than the rest. And we've also got other infernals and dogs and shit. So they start fighting that and trying to figure out what's kind of going on. But this is like a beefy-up, beef-caked infernal. Let's see, we find out that there's that lady in black pretty much inside of Amaterasu, and it's kind of like powered by human sacrifice, and for some reason Pi is around it because Arthur was able to figure out Pi because of circles and circumference. Because he is the Night King. Yeah. The thing is, I don't mind it. Nothing much is done with it yet. Now, granted, I understand that not everything needs to be explained up front. But when you start like pooping this out at random ass intervals, you're like, all right, if you have a need for it, put it in there and then utilize it later. Perfectly cool. I don't need everything explained to me on the get-go. But we get to the end of the season and I'm like, are we getting anything with that pie shit? Nope, because we got to do all these other things that get thrown in at nowhere. So we get some kind of cool moments. We get some other kind of Fire Force members doing their kind of thing. We get a nice kind of JoJo reference, which I'm like, yeah, alright, cool. They're having their issues, and of course they need kind of like a power boost to deal with this dude. Shinra's able to kind of work it out with the group and with the lady in black to give like about 1 second of Adola Grace. He's able to do that and pretty much take out this Infernal by us, and also seeing that this dude had survived the Great Cataclysm, was alone, and then the Evangelist popped out, bugged his ass, and he's been an Infernal ever since. And that the lady in black got her powers from like the same kind of place or whatnot. I was like, alright. So they go back, they tell Captain Obi about all this kind of stuff, and He's like, all right, cool. Let's kind of investigate this shit a little bit more. And we had also seen that another one of the pillars had awakened. This Inca chick who is another kind of crazy ass chick and is into the fires and everything and has this power to pretty much see how fires will start. You know what I mean? Because this kind of like shot them off. They're going for all these kind of like pillar people because they evidently need them for the Great Cataclysm. And there's like that one pillar that's in Amaterasu that's acting like, I'm insane and I don't like people because I was put in here. And I'm like, you're kind of, yeah. I'm like, you got put into a place to pretty much power some shit for fucking reasons. I'm like, I understand energy constraints and everything like that, but once you start getting into human sacrifice, I'm like, really? There's no better fucking way? And I'm like, your whole religion thing, which we learned at the Evangelist, pretty much had one of their people from either Adola or whatnot shapeshift into Raffles, pretty much cheated the religion so that way they could do this kind of thing for the Great Cataclysm, which we don't understand how it even helps to achieve their goals. Now, granted, not everything needs to have like a concrete, deep kind of explanation. Like this could be them trying to evolve to a higher plane. This could just be because they fucking hate people and want to fucking toast the world. It could be because they're trying to make some brand spanking ice cream to sell on the market. It can be a stupid reason. It just needs to have some kind of reason. Any of those could work out. But we're seeing these kind of things. It's like, all right, that's okay. Let's figure this shit out. Because they're trying to figure out what's going on with the pillars. They're trying to obtain the rest of these kind of pillars. Shows pretty much being like put back into I am mind controlled mode. Of course, the Inca chick was the other kind of main one that they got into. Let's see. Woman in Amaterasu is 1. Show's like 2. Shinra's like 3. Inca was like 4. They found this one kid who was pretty much being held by Hajime because they're trying to research what the fuck's going on with the Adolas as well, and getting pretty much no headway either way. This kid is really messed up, and his only friend is like a dude that likes to abuse weaker people than him and has abused children and by like beating them and shit like that. And I'm just like, I'm uncomfortable. And this kid's like having a fucking breakdown as like one of the other white clads who's able to like control infernal bodies, I think. They're like dead people, but she like mega fused one into an infernal, and the kid was pretty much almost fused with it as well. And be like, rah, 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 laser beam, laser beam, laser beam. What the fuck's going on with this kid? It is not in the right mind. What the hell? Gotta be good, gotta be good. He's fucking hallucinating this one dude that we saw in the other season and was like, yeah! And just like putting bugs into kids, and this show really is kind of disturbing me even more as I'm trying to talk about it. I'm like, here's this bug thing. Let's see if you're an Adola person. What? Okay. And it pretty much leads to like a 3-way battle between like the Hajime people, Company 8, and the White Clad. And the Chiron dude from the White Clad's interesting. We do get some interesting kind of looks into the White Clad characters, mainly Chiron and this weird assault dude who tries to like kill Tamaki on and on and on again, but is like undone because of her lecher charm, and he's got no defense against panties. It's almost like watching Master Roshi try and like gear up for the Tournament of Power, except that actually had a better kind of resolution than this. Let's see. So they kind of work out certain things. They are able to get together with Hajime. Leaked. I was like, hey, I'm working with Hajime. Figuring this all the thing. I was like, we gotta know. We saw the Joker dude and Shinmon pretty much bust into the heart of the Holy Soul Temple to get information. We get some backstory of Joker that was pretty much being like an assassin for the church kind of dude, but he's like, I'm fucking digging with that shit, and buggered out. But him and Burns pretty much got into the same Adola Link and got opposite eyes burned out, and Burns is giving him more information about how, hey, this whole religion is pretty much a sham and is pretty much trying to control us for this evangelist kind of dude. So let's not fucking do that. It's like, okay, all right. And then evidently Joker and Leech are working on the same thing because they want to discover the truth. And I'm like, I get that. I like to discover the truth as well. Let's just see if this series actually does that. This, of course, brings into some questions of what's going on with the whole Holy Soul Temple, giving like a crisis of faith of to Sister Iris and all that. Like, they don't really even handle it much. They bring up the question, but they don't really get any much character resolution other than Iris continuing on to trying to do good things and still believing in like the Holy Soul Temple and all that, which is, I can understand that, and I would like to see that more explored. Intriguingly, if a religion is made under a false pretense, if untold number of years later you find that out yourself, but you're still if you do it for like better reasons or whatnot, or for good reasons that have no way to even align with what it was originally done, have you changed that religion, or are you still part of that kind of scam part, or whatnot with that? That's like, okay, these are some intriguing questions that we don't really get much into. We kind of get surface level stuff because we got to get thrown in all the rest of these kind of things that are going on. So we get that kind of going on. We get another thing brought up that Maki gets like pulled out of the Fire Force because her dad was like, I will want my princess hurt, and she gets like pulled from the back line, and we get that going on. Her brother starts investigating the Nether because they're like seeing some weird shit going on. Dr. Giovanni doing his shit. They go down there with a joint force with like 8 and all these other people to see what's going on. And this like Ritsu chick's like, hey, here's this shit. Some people get injured, some people get killed. The Juggernaut dude loses like an arm and a leg, and Tamaki wants to get stronger afterward. And she tries to pretty much use the dead body trick again, except this time to blow up the Tokyo Empire, which makes no sense because I thought that's what you're going to be doing at the Great Cataclysm. But they're trying to do this already. It's like, why is this happening? So they deal with that and are able to like stop that. And it's like, alright, cool. Maki gets back with the Fire Force Company. And then we get the last couple episodes dealing with a training montage. Tamaki's able to kind of like more unlock her power, playing tag with like the 2 chicks under Captain Shinmon. Shinmon pretty much tries to do like the hysterical strength with Shinra and Arthur, which is pretty much just beating the unholy fucking shit out of them until they pretty much get into a fight or flight response, and they both for some reason power up Blue without getting the Tephrosis thing. It's really kind of strange. Not all the rules need to be as defined as possible, okay? There's some leeway when you're trying to like do something. Sometimes you need to retcon something. But when you get to a point where you're explaining the basic rules of what's going on with your world, and then you kind of start ignoring it for certain characters, there has to be valid kind of reasons, because we're told that if you're pushed to the point that you pretty much have no more oxygen in your body and you continue to start burning because it doesn't have an oxygen source, it's going to start burning up your body and do the whole Tephrosis thing. Why they didn't start burning up even more and going to blue flame, kind of similar to like Super Saiyan Blue kind of thing, just got that. Made no sense to me. And it's just like, okay, now granted, it could be explained later on, but I don't mind characters training and getting their montage and breaking through their barriers and everything. That's cool and everything. It just has to work within the rules. Or if those rules need to be changed or broken or retconned, we need that kind of thing to be like led through to us so that way we can understand and still have context within the world. Otherwise, it's just going to be like, okay, the plot demanded that they get that. Because the plot, we have a problem that this needed to be done. It's really kind of weird and irritating because this season was really kind of hard to follow. Not because it was overly complicated or complex or like I couldn't understand what was going on. They're throwing too much and not connecting enough, and throwing out even like conflicting things going on, which I don't mind if you've got like an unreliable narrator thing going on. I don't mind that sometimes you'd be like, okay, this is what we found out versus, oh, this is what you think you found out, but this is the other context that could have you see it in a different light and mean something completely different. I don't mind that. It's just when you're being like, oh, it's another kind of dimension. Alien bugs? What? Okay. There could be two explanations, but it's like, why is this kind of seeming more like a dimension kind of thing versus alien bugs doing kind of weird superpower thing? You're just throwing a lot of stuff that's not making as much sense as it should. And that's disappointing to me because it's like, okay, cool, let's see what's going on because I really liked the first season and this one I didn't hate. I would totally recommend it for characters and having nice, enjoyable kind of moments, nice action scenes, and beautiful animation. But if you're really into story, and story is a big thing for me, you're going to be disappointed with this one. Because it's not like there aren't good seeds there, and it's not like there's not good potential there. It just needs to be really worked together and make a more kind of cohesive whole. I felt very much like it was just going kind of all over the place, and that almost as if the overall plot got like chopped down into all these mini arcs, which did more damage to it than it should have. I don't mind arcs, but you gotta fit your arc to your story. If your arc needs like half a season to be told, take that half a season. If you have an arc that's 2 episodes, just take those 2 episodes. Don't try and stretch, don't try and compact it. Problems incur if you do it that way, because you're either going to make it seem an ungodly long time before something happens, or things are going to happen in such quick succession that your pacing is going to be like, I find out that my father is the donut lord of the underworld, but he somehow, within the next episode, rode a flaming cat that somehow thunder sharded, like, grape jelly onto the heavenly host of the Quickie Mart from Springfield on The Simpsons, and now that there's a war with the elder tentacled elder monsters throughout the untold ether space, and you don't understand what's going on. It's like, what? If you learn that your father's doing all this kind of stuff, and then you gotta fight Tentacle Cthulhu while learning why there's a cat yelling about shitting jelly on something, you're gonna have a bad time. And I don't know why I come up with these weird-ass shit things, but it does. Kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like that. So, if you enjoyed Fire Force Season 1, I think you would enjoy watching this one, mainly because of the reasons that I've listed, and the mainly weakest part is how the plot needs better connection. Because I was watching this and thinking, God damn, I'm going to have a hard kind of time kind of figuring out and remembering what's going on, because they just started throwing shit, and I'm like, God, this has 24 episodes, and I'm like, this is nuts. It really kind of reminded me of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where I'm like, alright, we should be good here. There's 8 fucking plot things going on. Wait, that makes no sense. There's 6 episodes. No! And they're just like, I got bad deja vu. I'm like, the plot salad has come again. Now, granted, this plot salad is not as bad as Falcon and the Winter Soldier's plot salad. The thing is, these work more in harmony, but there needed to be more work by the chefs / writers to get more of a harmonious feel of what's going on. Granted, this feels more like an actual salad that's got the bits of the salad. There's just some weird shit going on with them that's not just jiving with each other. It's not like this untold mass of ice cream, pickles, agave, and like bull testicles. It at least isn't that bad. I'll definitely go with you on that. So, those are my opinions on this season. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.